Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Your boy KT here. Thank you guys for taking a little bit of time to spend a little time with me. I have not been posting much on the channel, and that's because I've been very busy recently. It's been kind of crazy in my life, in a good way, a good crazy, but been incredibly busy. So I haven't had as much time to dedicate myself to the channel like I want to. But I decided I wanted to get on for a quick minute and talk about the 2026 NFL draft class for the Chicago Bears. As you know, the draft was last week, and the Bears had 7 selections that they made this year in 2026. And they were all polarizing. Some were better than others, so I figured I would get on here and just give my quick grades and overall thoughts on the Chicago Bears draft class. So we're going to go quickly through each draft selection that they made and give it an individual grade from F to A on what picks I liked and what picks I really didn't like, and then give my overall grade for the draft class at the end of the video. So if you guys do like this type of content, please consider subbing to the channel if you're new here and hitting that like button, as it helps the channel grow. Make sure you guys hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I drop one of these or any video on the channel when I get the time. Unfortunately, it is very busy in my life, a good type of busy, but it's still very busy. So I'm just gonna have to play the uploading videos by ear, and when I get the time to do so, I will upload them as soon as possible. But for now, this format is just gonna have to work. So thank you guys for being patient with me. I'm going to go ahead and flip to the actual start of the video, and we're going to review the first pick that the Bears made in the 2026 NFL Draft. So without further ado, let's get started. So the Bears entered the 2026 offseason with a lot of questions going into that, specifically that defensive side of the ball. And specifically, an underrated need for the Chicago Bears was their safety position. As you guys know, if you're hardcore Bears fans, or even if you're not a Bears fan, we had 2 safeties leave us in free agency. Kevin Byard, coming off his all-pro season, didn't know if the Bears were going to pay him. He was a bit of an older player. They did not decide to play him. He went ahead and signed a 1-year deal in New England, rejoining Mike Vrabel in New England and that Super Bowl runner-up and that Super Bowl contender in New England. We also didn't know if the Bears were going to pay Jaquan Brisker this offseason, and they ended up not paying him either, as he went to go sign another 1-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We wish them the both in their future careers and endeavors, but they are no longer a part of the Chicago Bears roster, so that left a lot of questions about who's going to be their starting safeties this year. Well, one of the first moves that the Bears made in the offseason was the signing of former Seattle Seahawks safety and Super Bowl champion Kobe Bryant. Bryant brings a lot of physicality to that safety room and a good coverage grade, or at least a good enough coverage grade and championship experience. He will most likely be starting at the free safety position, taking Kevin Byard's place. What ends up happening now is that when the Bears entered the 2026 NFL Draft, they did not have a starting safety, and safety was probably high on their big board. So at pick 25 in the first round, the Chicago Bears went ahead and selected Dylan Thieneman. Thieneman comes in and fills an immediate need for the Chicago Bears. Coming out of Oregon, he was probably one of the best safeties in the entire draft, only behind Caleb Banks on most people's mock drafts and big boards, and that's arguable as well. Thieneman is coming off an All-American season, first-team All-American season with the Oregon Ducks. Played 15 games for them, had 96 combined tackles, 44 solo tackles, 52 assisted tackles, and 35 tackles for losses. Had a sack as well last year, 5 pass deflections and 2 interceptions. He was also a third-team All-American in his freshman year at Purdue, in which he racked up 6 interceptions, 2 pass deflections, 74 solo tackles, 32 assisted, and 2 tackles for losses. The interceptions went down for Thieneman in 2025, but the coverage grade went up. One of the best coverage safeties in the entire draft, one of the most athletic safeties in the entire draft. Ran a 4.3, had a 41-inch vertical for a safety. That's great. A little bit on the smaller side, 6 feet, 201 pounds, but projects to be a kind of a hybrid safety, can move around a lot, has a lot of versatility in his game, very good coverage safety, can do some work in the box as well. If you needed a perfect safety prospect to name in this draft, other than Caleb Downs, Dylan Thieneman was probably the next best safety on the board. I know people had Emmanuel McNeil-Warren as well on that list, but Warren, to me, wasn't as good of a coverage safety as Thieneman. I figured if he had dropped to them, they were going to take him. The problem was we didn't know if he would fall to the Chicago Bears. I'm pretty sure plenty of teams had him high on their draft boards. We thought Minnesota was going to end up taking him, but they ended up taking Caleb Banks in one of the most puzzling moves of that draft, which I'll probably do in a separate video. But he did end up falling to the Chicago Bears. This is a great pick for them as it fills an immediate need, and he fits Dennis Allen's defense, being versatile and being able to move all around the field, as he does have experience with the free safety position. He played both sides in Dan Lanning's defense last season and even can play a little bit of nickel corner if needed. So one of the best picks of the Chicago Bears draft, one of the best picks in the entire draft from where they drafted him. This is a certified steal. This is an A+ pick, man. This was a need for them. You get a nice good coverage safety who can play physical in the box, a good hybrid safety who can play everywhere. Pairing him with Kobe Bryant gives you a lot of speed in that back seven, and that's what the Bears needed. They needed speed in that back seven after last year's fiasco with that secondary and very polarizing secondary. But this was one of my favorite picks in the entire draft class for the Chicago Bears. I'll post the relative athletic score up here so you guys can see his raw athletic talent. But hopefully Thieneman comes in, makes an immediate impact, and becomes a star like we all want him to become in the Chicago Bears uniform. So A+ pick for the Chicago Bears. So coming into the 2026 offseason, the Bears had an unexpected need on their team. We talked about the need at safety, but another action happened that kind of shocked the Bears and shocked the fan base and kind of created a hole where we didn't think was going to be a hole. So, as you guys know, Drew Dalman signed a 3-year contract with the Chicago Bears just last season, played all of last season, and played very, very well for the Chicago Bears, making the Pro Bowl. He was one of the best centers in the league last season. He unexpectedly retired early in 2026, citing health concerns or health reasons, or future health reasons, as his reason for retirement. We wish him the best in his retirement, but unfortunately that created a large hole at the center position for the Chicago Bears. So to alleviate that issue, the Chicago Bears went ahead and traded for Garrett Bradbury, center from New England. Bradbury is an intelligent center, not the most physically imposing, but is very solid. Didn't hear his name much in New England, but we knew that the Bears were probably going to have to draft another center. We just didn't know it would be so high in the draft. They needed another center, and they need a center for the future, as Bradbury is a bit on the older side as well. So with the 57th pick in the second round, or pick 25 in the second round if you're being technical, the Chicago Bears selected Logan Jones out of Iowa. This is one of the better picks of this entire draft as well, at least in the second round in my opinion, as the Bears did need a center, and Logan Jones fits the mold perfectly. Logan Jones comes from the Iowa Hawkeyes and was a storied center at Iowa as well, following up from the great Tyler Lindenbaum at Iowa. And it has been, Tyler Lindenbaum is probably one of the best centers in the league, if not the best center in the league, and he had to follow up to that. He was converted from defensive tackle to center following the graduation of Lindenbaum, and let's just say he had a very, very good career. Since taking over at 2023 full-time, he was a third-team All-Big Ten in 2023, a two-time first-team All-Big Ten in 2024 and 2025, a unanimous All-American in 2025 as well, a Joe Moore Award winner in 2025, and a Remington Trophy winner in 2025. He started 49 games as center for the Hawkeyes from 2022 to 2025, and he was one of the best centers in the entire draft, if not the best center in the entire draft. Only James Slaughter went ahead of him, and that was quite a questionable pick when they made it. A little bit on the smallish side. He's 6'3", 299 pounds, but you start to see that more with centers as they come into the league, as coordinators and offensive head coaches want their centers to be able to pull easily in the run game, as a lot of teams run a lot of outside zone. And you want to have an athletic big man who can get out to the perimeter and get those blocks on the perimeter and get to the second level. As you can see, his relative athletic score is really, really good as well. Running a 4.9 for a center is elite. 32-inch vertical, that's elite. Like I said, a little bit on the smallish side, but everything on this relative athletic score screams just a very, very good athlete. One of the highest for a center, in my opinion. This was a low-key need, and I did think they would take a center. Didn't know it would be in the second round, as we all thought they would try to at least trade up to take some type of pass rusher, or at least if they were at least going to try to see if a pass rusher would fall to them. We did know that they did try to move up, but the price was just too steep. So they just decided to settle where they were and take Logan Jones. Some people argue that he would have been there in the later rounds. I don't think so. With James Slaughter coming off the board early, somebody was going to take Logan Jones eventually. I'm glad it was the Chicago Bears. I'm going to give this pick a B+, because while I do think they still should have traded up, or at least considered trading up for a pass rusher, I do think that the Bears filled a need at the center's position. They needed a future guy there at that position from 2027 and beyond. Garrett Bradbury is nice, but he probably won't be on this team long term. So the next best thing is the guy that he can learn from. The guy Logan Jones can learn from, sit behind for a year and develop, maybe even start if necessary, his first season in the league in case of injury. This is a guy that can be very, very good in the National Football League, has a good pedigree, and Iowa does create some very good centers. So, hey, it's a good pick for me, a B+. I'll post the relative athletic score again for your viewing pleasure, and we will move on to the next pick. So, that brings us to the start of more puzzling picks going on into the third round. Now, the third round, Ryan Poles is very infamous for being not the best in the third round of these drafts, and depending on how this plays out, this could be another example of that. So with the 69th overall pick in the 2026 NFL draft, or the 5th pick in the third round, the Chicago Bears selected Sam Roush, tight end from Stanford, 6'6", 267 pounds. This was one of the puzzling picks of the night. I remember when they made it, and I was completely puzzled, as tight ends, for at least for the Chicago Bears, was not a major need with the emergence of future superstar Colston Loveland, in my opinion, and with a very good backup tight end in Cole Kmet. The Bears did lose Durham Smythe in the offseason, but he was not a very good third tight end. And while it was a need for a third tight end, I do think that they could have went somewhere else in this direction. Maybe a DT in this direction, putting something on that line. Maybe another edge prospect, maybe, as there wasn't a lot of edges left at that point, as I think the Patriots had took Gabe Yakis just a pick or two before them. So the Bears decided to take Sam Roush out of Stanford, and this was, like I said, a puzzling pick. But as you look at the pick a little bit more, you start to realize why they did it. So the Bears ran a lot of 12 personnel. I think they were one of the league leaders in 12 personnel, if not the league leader. We know Ben Johnson prioritizes his tight end positions very well. He knows his tight end positions very well. But another trend that the league is starting to see go up and up is the emergence of 13 personnel, which you have 3 tight ends in the game, 1 receiver, and I think a running back at the most. But it's mainly a 3 tight end set, and that's mainly used for blocking sets, or it can create mismatches as well. And the more I look at this pick, the more I start to see why this pick kind of makes a little bit more sense. Sam Roush played at Stanford last year, had played in 12 games for Stanford, had 49 receptions for 545 yards, and had 2 touchdowns on the year. Is a very, very good blocking tight end. Initially on the broadcast, they said he was more of a pass catcher, but somebody corrected them later, or at least went back in a video and said that he is one of the best blocking tight ends in coming into the draft and coming into this draft. And a lot of teams actually wanted him. I'm pretty sure the San Francisco 49ers did want to jump up and get him before the Bears stole him. With the Bears playing a lot more 13 personnel, they played the second highest next to the Los Angeles Rams. We know McVay loves his tight ends. We know Ben Johnson loves his tight ends. And this creates a lot of mismatches going into next year. He's a very, very athletic player. Once again, ran a 4.7 in the 40-yard dash, which is great for a tight end. A 38-inch vertical, which is also elite for a tight end. A bigger tight end as well at 6'6", 267, and he benched 25. His bench was 25, so that's also elite as well. As far as like change of direction, he's not the most athletic. He's decent, but he's not the most athletic. And overall, he rounded out pretty good in the relative athletic score. But you just look at his game, you can tell he has very good receiving talent. He knows how to get open, can threaten the second level, can get up into that second level as well in the blocking category. And with a mastermind like Ben Johnson back there calling the plays, you have to think that with him, with the league moving more towards 13 personnel, at least for offensive-minded coaches, you have to think that he's going to use this and use Sam Roush a lot in a lot of packages that they can draw up both for blocking and for pass catching. And now you have 3 good tight ends on the roster. I'm going to give this pick a C+, because while I do like the pick in theory, because the Bears are playing more 13 personnel, and hey, well, who's saying no to another good tight end on this roster? But the Bears did need DT help bad. If nothing else, I did figure that they would at least try to take a defensive line player here, at least if not for pass rushing, at least for run stuffing. But that did not happen. I'm not saying it's the worst pick in the world, but a C+ feels fitting for this pick as well. If you want to go B-, you can. I just personally think that they could have taken more of a or even like a DT, maybe another linebacker here. But overall, when you look at the pick, it's not as bad as people were making it. This next pick is going to be very, very puzzling. So I'm going to leave you guys with the relative athletic score for Sam Roush. And let's get into the next pick for the Chicago Bears draft. Okay, this is where the picks kind of get this. This is probably the most puzzling pick in the entire draft, at least in the 3rd round for the Chicago Bears. This was not a pick on anybody's radar, and this kind of upset a lot of people in the community, and I can see why. But with the 89th pick in the 3rd round, or the 25th pick in the 3rd round, the Chicago Bears selected Xavion Thomas, wide receiver from LSU, 5'10", 190 pounds, 22 years old, and played at LSU last year. Receiver was not much of a need coming into this year. As you guys know, the Bears traded DJ Moore away for, I think, this pick, actually. They traded him away to Buffalo. I think they got this pick, which they later, I think they got a second, which they later flipped for a 3rd. And then it was something else as well. I think this pick ended up turning into Xavion Thomas. But they did end up selecting Xavion Thomas, even though they had Rome Odunze and Luther Burden now take over at those flanker spots. Luther Burden probably becoming the full-time starter. They had just signed Khalif Raymond in the offseason, and they still had Jade Walker in that receiver room as well for the wide receiver 3. So this was not a pick I was expecting coming into the 3rd round. Xavion Thomas played 13 games for the LSU Tigers, amassing 41 receptions, 488 yards, 4 touchdowns, and had a lot of rushing as well. Some rushing yards and a rushing touchdown as well. When you look at Xavion Thomas, he looks like a guy who is a gadget player in the National Football League. And he's very fast. Very, very fast. Ran a 4.2 40, which is very, very fast for a receiver. A little bit on the smaller side. Actually really small at 5. Basically at 5'1". Or I'm sorry, 5'10", I'm sorry. This dude is a small, slight receiver. It can be used as a gadget receiver, has kick return experience, and when he gets into the open field, man, can he burn. And it's not just a gadget player either. He has experience with flanking and playing in that slot position. He has pretty good hands for a smaller type receiver. Usually those smaller, speedy types can't catch, but he can fly a little bit. He can catch a little bit. Played at Mississippi State early in his career before he transferred over to LSU. Wasn't a high draft pick in most people's boards. Probably was at the lowest was an undrafted free agent, but most people had him going somewhere in the 6th or 7th. Was a freshman All-American at punt returner, and then he entered the transfer portal. This, again, he probably would have went higher. There's a kind of a mixed consensus on him. He kind of would have went higher had LSU not completely struggled last year. He has talent, real talent. He can play. I just struggle to see the need here, as the Bears already had a whole bunch of receivers to begin with. And, you know, again, the defensive line for Chicago Bears was a big issue, especially the interior defensive line. And I figured that with some DTs left on the board, or at least another edge left on the board, I figured that that's the direction they would have went. But they did not. We know Ben Johnson now was very keen on taking Xavier Thomas, as he had been watching him since his days in high school, or at least watching his tape in high school, and saw a guy that he can put in many different packages. Probably could put him at running back, and he can do some damage there. Kind of screams a Velus Jones type pick, if I'm being honest. I'm hoping not, as it was a much better receiver. He did start on LSU, so there's that. But this pick kind of screams Ben Johnson needs his gadget players, needs his speedy receiver that he can put in so many different packages. I kind of see where the vision is. You like to give your offensive-minded head coach a whole bunch of weapons to work around with. Still, I would have preferred they would have went more defense here. So for that reason, I'm going to give them a D for this pick. Maybe even as low as a D-, as, again, another third-round receiver, another speedy third-round receiver, in which the past two have not worked out, and Tyler Scott and Velus Jones Jr. So we'll see what Xavier Thomas can become. If he comes here and becomes an electric gadget piece for the Chicago Bears, then I can see the vision. If not, he'll be another one of those third-round draft picks, especially in that receiver category, that just was puzzling when they made it. So I'm going to post a relative athletic score up. I'm going to give it a D-. Go ahead and look at that, and we will move to our next pick in the Bears draft class. And so now that moves us on to one of my least favorite picks in the draft to one of my favorite picks in the draft for the Chicago Bears. At pick number 124 in the fourth round, or pick 24 in the first round, the Chicago Bears selected Malik Muhammad, cornerback from Texas. A smallish corner at 6 feet, 182 pounds, but this dude, I had this guy going much higher in the draft. He was a very, very good corner in college at Texas. Projects more as kind of like that CB2, and to be fair, this is what the Bears kind of needed to. They went back to defense in this round, and this is what they needed with the departure of Pro Bowler Nahshon Wright from the equation in that cornerback room. The Bears were very thin at corner anyway because of all the injuries last year, but losing Nahshon Wright did not help. So that projects as Tyreek Stevenson coming back and playing the CB2 role. But Stevenson can be a little bit hot and cold, and of course competition is always good. So the Bears selected Malik Muhammad in the fourth round. Muhammad is another case of being an athletic freak, even though being a little bit smaller for a corner. Ran that 4.4, 4.42, which is good for a corner. Had a 39-inch vertical, which is also good for a corner. Had a 9-inch broad jump too, so that was, what was that, a 10-inch broad jump? I forgot. Can change direction, good for a corner. Very, very, I wouldn't say sticky in man coverage, but a very, very good man coverage defender, and is probably one of the better zone coverage defenders as well. Muhammad, I projected him to go higher in the third round. As you know, his teammate Jermod McCoy kind of fell down to this round as well. And that was puzzling, as I know he wasn't going to play this year. Not his teammate. He played at Tennessee. Never mind. I know he wasn't going to play, but I had him as a high corner as well. This is a steal for the Chicago Bears, in my opinion. This guy has natural instincts for the ball. Had 2 interceptions last year, 4 pass deflections, very speedy, 23 combined tackles and 7 assisted tackles. While I do think that he does suffer from injury issues at times, I think if he's developed properly, he will fit in this in this Dennis Allen defense. Has nice long arms as well, so I think he has natural instincts for the ball. He can attack the ball well, can stick with guys in man coverage, is a really good zone coverage defender as well. One of my favorite picks in the entire draft, man. You know, I like cornerbacks. You know, cornerback is probably one of my favorite positions to watch in the National Football League, and you got to have good corners especially in the National Football League with all these new dynamic receivers coming into the league. We know that the Bears suffer from injuries in that cornerback room, with Kyler Gordon missing most of last season, Jalen Johnson missing most of last season, and he didn't quite get it back until late last season. You missed Tyreek Stevenson for a couple games. Terrell Smith tore his ACL. Zoff Frazier had an injury. So you had a lot of injuries in that cornerback room, and you were forced to play guys where you didn't really want to play last year. And with Muhammad coming in, you can kind of push Tyreek Stevenson, or he can kind of come off the bench and be that guy that you can put in on certain downs. But this is a great pick. He can possibly be your CB2 of the future as well. So I am very pleased with this pick. I'm going to give it an A, man. This is a steal for me. You know how I like corners, and with his natural ball skills, his natural skills for coverage, being a little bit of a smaller guy, but being fast as well, as the Bears prioritize speed on that defense now. I think he fits Dennis Allen like a glove, and if he can develop into a little bit stickier man coverage defender and work on his tackling, he can be a very, very good CB2 in this league. He did watch Jalen Johnson, a lot of Jalen Johnson film, so that's always great to watch a very, very good corner in the National Football League and base your game around him. But man, I give this pick an A. I'll leave the relative athletic score up for you guys before we move to the next pick, but slam dunk pick for me for the Chicago Bears. And so brings me to my next pick, or the Bears' next pick in this draft. Very polarizing pick as well in the 5th round. Don't know too much about this guy, but I do know that he brings something to the table, and I do know that he does fill a position of need for the Chicago Bears. So in the 5th round, with the 166th pick, or the 26th pick in the 5th round, if you're being technical, the Chicago Bears selected Ki-Jana Elliott from Arizona State. The 6'2", 231-pound linebacker comes from Arizona State and had a career season last year, man. And again, fills the need of being another athletic freak. Did test at the combine. His numbers weren't on Tankathon, so I do have the relative athletic score here. Ran a 4.5 for a linebacker, which is really, really good. And he comes in and replaces a guy like Tremaine Edmonds. The Bears lost a few linebackers last year. They traded. Tremaine Edmonds left in free agency. They're not going to have TJ Edwards to start the season. I think they lost another linebacker as well. So they went out, picked up Jack Sanborn. They went out and picked up Devin Bush. They re-signed DeMarco Jackson. So they needed some depth coming into that linebacker room as well. And they picked Ki-Jana Elliott. Again, another athlete at the linebacker position. Had a 38-inch vertical, which is good for a linebacker as well. Again, a little bit on the smaller side of a linebacker. 6'1". 6'2", 231 pounds. A little bit on the smaller side, but I think he does bring a unique skill set. And for the Chicago Bears, he can change direction very good for a linebacker. Also, the most polarizing thing about him is he did have 7 sacks last season at Arizona State, and has averaged around 2 sacks in his previous years with Arizona State and New Mexico. So my thought process being, and of course he did also rack up 54 tackles, 44 assisted tackles, and 14 tackles for losses with 2 pass deflections as well. Can force fumbles as well. He was a second team All Big 12 in both 2024 and 2025, and was a second team All Conference USA in 2023. So this guy has a lot of talent as well. I just want to know, I have to do some more research on this guy. I want to know if this guy projects more as an edge than an actual stand-up linebacker. I know he did play stand-up linebacker in college, but I got to look at those 7 sacks, man, because the Bears need pass rush help, and any pass rush help they can get is generally needed. Now, I know that he's probably most likely not going to be an edge. He is 6'2" and 231 pounds, so he'd be a very, very small edge and has short arms. But, for the position that he was drafted at, that's very good to have 7 sacks. So that means he can come off a blitz very well. It's fast enough to get to the quarterback and get him to the ground. I also want to add that this could be a very, very simple pick as well, as this could be a Noah Sewell replacement, as Sewell will probably not be available as well, as he tore his Achilles, I believe, last season. So for me, Keyshawn Elliott is one of the more polarizing picks in the entire draft. I'm going to give it a C. I'll give it a C+. I like the pick. Again, these 5th round picks can be hit or miss. You can find good players. I'm pretty sure Keyshawn Elliott is not going to become a star in the National Football League. You never know. If he hits, he hits. But, it is a linebacker pick. Again, with the slim pickings at defensive line, I shouldn't dock the grade too much, but I do think that they could have double dipped at defensive tackle a little bit more. I keep saying defensive tackle because even though people keep focusing on the edge positions, defensive tackle was a big position of need coming in to the offseason, and I do feel like that's one of our weaker positions on the defensive line. Austin Booker and Montez Sweat are more than solid edges that you can get by with, but their DT room, especially if they cannot stop the run, is going to be an issue for the Chicago Bears next season. Despite that, Keyshawn Elliott projects to be a rotational piece at linebacker, and if he can give you anything like Aman Agbagbomiga and DeMarco Jackson gave you last season, especially in a room with Devin Bush and Jack Sanborn and DeMarco Jackson, all fast linebackers, this defense will be much faster in the back end. So I do believe that this is a solid pick. I'm going to give it a C+. I'll let you guys look at the relative athletic score one last time, and we will move on. And finally, for the last pick of the Chicago Bears draft, they finally addressed the defensive tackle position. So, with this 213th pick in the 6th round, or pick 32 in the 6th round, they traded up to actually get this player. This is one of the more polarizing picks in the entire draft as well, as this could possibly be a fan favorite pick, and don't be surprised if this guy gives us a little bit of something coming into the season. With the 213th pick in the 6th round, pick number 32 in the 6th round, the Chicago Bears selected Jordan Vanderberg from Georgia Tech, 6'3", 310 pounds, 24 years old. Fun fact, he is the first player from South Africa to be drafted into the National Football League, so hats off to him. The first thing that you look at when you look at Jordan Vanderberg is he has a perfect 10 on the relative athletic score. Ran a 4.9 for a DT, hella fast. 36-inch vertical, which is hella good for a DT. Projects well with his size. He benched 35 times in the combine, so that's elite as well. Arm length is pretty good. He did the shuttle cone. That was pretty good. This dude was an athletic, has multiple videos of him being an athletic freak. And it's not all for show either. Jordan Vanderberg was a first team all ACC last season, played in JUCO as well. So he was a first team all American in JUCO, and also was a second team all ACC in 2024. This is a project pick. I'll say this. This is a project pick. And if they develop him, he can turn into a very, very good rotational piece on this line. I'm not saying he's going to be a star. I'm not saying he's going to come in and get 7 or 10 sacks a season. But he does project well as an athletic freak. He did not play. He's a late bloomer in football, so he really came out in football last season. He went to Iowa Western, in which he won that first team All-American in JUCO. Got to Penn State, didn't play much there at Penn State, so he had to transfer. Penn State, you're probably not going to get a lot of playing time with the DTs that were already there, because 2 of them got drafted, I believe, in this draft as well. So he transfers to Georgia Tech, and then you started to see the numbers go up a little bit. So in that season, he amassed the All-American season. He had 14 solo tackles, 9 assisted tackles, 5 tackles for losses, and 1 sack that year. Now, I know what you're saying. He also recovered 2 fumbles that season. I know what you're saying. Probably not the best numbers, but when you look at this guy's film, he was in the backfield a lot and was very, very disruptive, and that showed up on the film
for 2025, in which he made his first team all ACC. 44 combined tackles, 22 solo tackles, 22 assisted tackles, 11 tackles for loss. This man, there was an insane tackles for loss stat for him in this. I think it was on Reddit or Twitter. I forgot where it was. If I can find it, I'll post it. If not, he had like an insane, percentage of getting into the backfield and forcing tackles for losses. He also upped his sacks as well, with 3 of them on the year, and just consistently was disruptive for that Georgia Tech defense last season. Would have went higher if the production was higher, but the athletic traits are there. He is a player that they so desperately need on that DT spot. If he can give you anything other than Neville Gallimore and Kentavious Street and all these guys, if he can give you anything, it's competition. If he can make the roster and play well on this roster, oh yeah, he can be a very, very decent player and a decent rotation piece for this team. I like the pick per se. I'm gonna give it a B. I can't give it any higher than a B. I don't think he'll project into a star. Of course, when you, again, lower round picks, you're kind of taking a gamble on them anyway. Whether if they work out, they work out. If they don't, they don't. I will say, with the coaching staff that we have, he has the best opportunity to make himself a role on this team. Is a very good character as well, and has a very, 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 very high motor as well. So anytime you got a high motor on a team, they're going to see that, they're going to respect that, and you might get a little bit more playing time in this league if you show a high motor. I will say that it worked for Austin Booker. He went from defensive rotation piece to possibly being the starter, and he's working hard. So if Jordan Vanderberg projects out and uses all his athletic traits and can use that speed and use that disruptiveness and that aggression he plays with, he can be a very good rotational piece. But I can't justify giving this pick any more than a B, because of course you don't want to give nobody a B or give nobody an A and project them to be a star who's drafted in the sixth round. Of course, with Kyle Monungai's recent success story, we think all lower round picks were going to hit. But I do like this pick. I do think that the Bears just needed somebody to put on that DT. This is kind of the shut it here, shut up, damn pick for Ryan Poles again this year. As last year, the people wanted him to take a running back, and he took him in the 7th round, and we all saw how that panned out for the Chicago Bears. So I like it. I'm going to post the relative athletic score up on the screen, and I will go ahead and outro the video next. So yeah, let's get to it. And so, with that being said, the Chicago Bears 2026 draft class is complete. Overall, the Chicago Bears filled many needs on this team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They filled needs that were important to them. They got their safety in Dylan Thielman. They got their corner in Malik Muhammad. They also filled some needs on the offensive end as well with the draft selection of Logan Jones, and preferably and objectively, Sam Roush does feel a need for this team. Had some puzzling picks as well. The Sam Roush pick, of course, and the Xavier Thomas pick will always be in question for where they took them, especially the Xavier Thomas pick. But overall, when you look at the draft as a whole, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't the worst draft in the world. I think Dylan Thielman is going to be a very, very productive player for them. You get Logan Jones, probably your starting center past this year. Malik Muhammad projects to be the CB2 of the future. You got two interesting players in Keyshawn Elliott and Jordan Vanderberg. You have 2 players on the offensive side of the ball, and Sam Roush and Xavier Thomas, that can project into something. Roush fills a need at that 3rd tight end spot with a coach that loves tight ends. Xavier Thomas will always go down as one of the worst picks in this draft for the Chicago Bears. Nothing he does is probably going to change that unless he just comes in and just lights the league on fire. Which is unlikely for him, but I hope so, but it's probably unlikely, as he's probably not going to get a whole bunch of playing time. But you never know. So they filled some needs. They left with needs still left to fill. That defensive line is still kind of weak, especially on the interior. We still wonder where the pass rush is going to come from on this team. But overall, if you want to get a grade for the Chicago Bears draft class, I'm going to say a B-, man, because Dylan Thielman, I believe he's going to be one of the best players and best safeties in the league very soon. You get Logan Jones in the second round. That's a good pick for them for the future. They filled a lot of needs that they needed. They got more athletic as well, as they had one of the highest athletic grade scores for their overall draft class. I think at 81, I believe. So they needed to get more athletic. They need to get faster, especially on defense, and they did. The only thing that's going to be in question is, did they do enough in the draft and in free agency to assist that defensive line with getting to the quarterback, and not only getting to the quarterback, but stopping the run? But if you came and told me that the Bears accomplished their goal of getting more athletic on this team, getting more athletic on defense, getting versatile players on both offense and defense, I'd say it would be a success. I'm going to give it a B-. I like the draft that the Bears had. Still, it's not the best draft because I feel like they could have addressed the defensive line a little bit more. But we'll just have to see how it plays out. If all these guys can play and find a role, you won't hear a peep from me. Just like last year, you got some guys had one of the best rookie draft classes in the entire league. We'll take that if they're able to come in here and have a role on the team. So, I give it a B-. But yeah, guys, that's my draft grade for the Chicago Bears draft class in 2026. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Do you guys like this draft class? If you did, what was your favorite pick? What was your least favorite pick if you didn't? What is your personal draft grade? And who do you think will be the best player coming out of this class for the Chicago Bears? As always, guys, thank you guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the videos. It helps the channel grow. Make sure you guys hit that notification bell so you get notified every time I drop a video on the channel. Like I said, I've been very busy these past few months, and it's going to continue to be busy, so I'm going to have to, upload videos when I can, so be very patient with me. Of course, we're still going to do our streams later in the year when the season starts, so be looking out for that. But yeah, go follow me on social media if you want to, as there's bound to be news about the Bears. Training camp is getting ready to start. There's some other things that I might need to talk about as well. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Really hope you enjoyed, and I'm out. Peace.